if you have an interest in horses and love learning more about horses, the horse industry, teaching, or even managing your own horse business, then you're in the right place. We would love you to join us on our mission, which is to improve the lives of horses around the world through the education of riders, handlers, and trainers. So get comfortable, listen in, and enjoy.
This is another of our popular Listener's Choice interviews, which we're playing over the weekend. We've chosen the most popular interviews for you to select the Listener's Choice winner. If you're not sure how the Listener's Choice competition works, have a look at horsechats.com/choice for the rules and the leaderboard. Today's guest is Tarsha Hammond. Tarsha is a 4-star eventing specialist, competitor, trainer, coach educator. She also was shortlisted for Jerez for the World Championships and also for Sydney Olympics. How are you today, Tarsha?
Good, Glenys. Good. How are you?
Good. Now, I know that you don't normally go much in for quotes, but have you got a favourite quote for us today, one that you might use when you're teaching or something that's inspired you?
Well, the only thing I probably say when I teach a lot, from a teaching perspective, is if you can understand where the horse is coming from, you know how to handle it. Like, that's my biggest thing. The only quote I really do quite like from a just worldly point of view is the Henry Ford one, when whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. I do quite like that because, mind over matter in the horse business is sort of everything.
Yes, yeah, I think so. Now, Tarsha, I know that you've had an extensive experience with horses, but what I want to know are what your first memories with horses are. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Well, I started quite late, I think, in the industry. We lived in Sydney till I was 12 and my family are non-horsey. So it wasn't until we moved up to Tea Garden up on the coast that there was a pony club, and I used to ride my bike out on Sundays and sort of hover around until someone took pity on me and let me ride a horse that was in the round out because no one wanted to ride it for a fairly good reason. It was a bit of a naughty one called Hobo, and the old guy that owned it used to bring it out in the hope that someone would ride it. And so I, complete ignorance is bliss and thought it was wonderful and started riding from there. So it was, not the ideal first horse, but it was a horse and beggars can't be choosers. So it was great, and Pony Club is Pony Club. It's sort of the great introduction to everything. And yeah, we just bombed around the Pony Club and, all the bush with the Lindsays, the Aspinalls and the Heathcotes. And yeah, I had a great time. Not no sort of official training or anything like that, but just had lots of fun and did all the silly games, hit a rail and you lose the stirrup, hit a rail, you lose the rein. I don't know, it wasn't great schooling, but we did have an enormous amount of fun, which I think is really important.
That's certainly a good one. Hit a rail and lose the stirrup, hit a rail and lose the rein.
Yeah.
I wonder how long a lot of people would stay on if they started to play games like that.
Yeah.
Now, it's a long way coming from riding a not ideal first horse to then going on and riding and teaching professionally and doing things like getting shortlisted for both a World Championship and an Olympic Games. What made you decide to have a career with horses and make it?
I always just wanted to do horses. There was probably no defining moment, or it was just everything I ever wanted to do. I remember that, when you get sat down with your, what did they got, a careers manager or something in high school? I can't remember what it's called anymore. You sat down and he said, well, what are you going to do? And I just want to do horses. And he's like, well, that's not a job though. Like, what do you want to do for a job? And I said, well, I just want to work with horses. So that was a bit of a failed interview really, but it was all I ever wanted to do. And in any form, I just wanted to be around horses. That was sort of what brought me most happiness. And so when I finished school, Dad said, well, you can have to enroll in uni, but you have a year out. But as long as you take a year out, you can get a qualification. So the only qualification back then was the level 1, wasn't it? So I enrolled in the Lochinvar course that, everyone did sort of back then, and that's how it all began. I never actually set out to really become a coach, but the only way you sort of earn money, I think, to do your sport, which is the riding, and then you sort of, your main income is the coaching, and then you actually go, I quite like this, and and that sort of, ends up being sometimes bigger than the riding, at different times in your life, especially if you're having soundness issues with your body. But it was never a definitive thing. It was just a progression thing, a bit like, when I started a pony club, I was never one of those people that sort of said I want to go to the Olympics, or it just was, I just loved training the horses and loved being with the horses. I've always enjoyed horses more than people. And, well, that comes across wrong, doesn't it? But I just really enjoy working with them. So, yeah, it was just a onward progression, I guess.
Yeah. I know when the guidance officer at school, and they'd say something about horses, and I had a couple of different guidance officers, that told me that you can't have a career with horses. There's no jobs with horses. I actually had one who said to me, it doesn't really matter because, you'll just sort of have a job for a couple of years and then you'll get married and then you'll never work again anyway, so you can do whatever you like.
Oh, God, it's so good times have changed.
Yeah. Anyway, so we'll go on from there. So, Tarsha, did you ever go back to uni?
No, I had no real intention of it. It was more sort of the pacify the parents thing.
Yes.
No, once I did my instructor certificate at Lochinvar,
yep,
and then I saw a job advertised in Singapore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you just went and did the job there.
Yeah, so I worked over there for 2 years, and that was really, really good experience. Yeah.
Okay, good. If someone now said to you, look, I'd like to work with horses, work in the horse industry, what sort of core skills or personality traits do you think they need to have to work in the horse industry?
I think the biggest thing is that you love horses. I think if you want to work with horses, I think it's a very satisfying sort of thing. Working with animals in general is great, but if you want to work with horses as a rider, as a competitive rider, hard work, resilient, very important. The ability to bounce back because, your horses have injuries and go lame and things don't go according to plan. But as a coach, the ability to get on with people and the ability to learn. I think to be able to pick up things from people as you go along and be a bit of a sponge. I think that's very important. But yeah, the hard work ethic,
good.
Very important.
So a lot of those things you've said, now there's a lot of people work in the horse industry already who have those key skills. What do you think the keys are then to excelling? Because you've really excelled in your career. What do you think you've got more than what someone else has got?
Well, I mean, the times I was listed in things, I had a very, very good horse, and you're only as good as the horse that you're riding, as you know, and he was amazing. I just hit the jackpot with that one. And getting a good horse is imperative to going well as far as your riding goes. And I think the ability to learn, and I'm actually not what I'd call a great learner. I don't learn from books so well. I learn watching. I can watch and pick up things. If I actually am getting a lesson, people can say something to me, and I don't necessarily take that in straight away, but I go and practice, and that's how I learn. And I actually learn from horses very much. So people have said to me over the years, who have you learnt most from? And I've learnt most from my horses. I actually really feel that I can tune into a horse and understand them quite well. So I think that has been and so because of that, if you can teach that, if you've got someone on that same way of thinking, you can teach that, it's very, very easy. But, I'm certainly, I don't think I'm the world's best competitor. I think I'm a good trainer, and I think that's very different, than a great competitor, to a great trainer, a bit different. But, yeah, I don't mind hard work. That's what I've always been good at.
It sounds like you certainly enjoy your training, someone that's going to take what they've learned in a lesson and just go away and keep practicing it. I think that's what training's all about. It sounds like you're really good at training and you really enjoy it.
Yeah, I really enjoy the little steps, those little wins that you get at home. Mm-hmm. And being able to put that into that perfect test, I really enjoy the correlation, and being able to get it at home and then get it minus 5% maybe an out or something, I really enjoy that. Yeah.
Good. And what about, you've said you've learned a lot from horses. What about learning from people? Are there special people that you've learned a lot from? Anyone you'd like to mention?
I picked up a lot, you sort of pick up a lot along the way, don't you? When I was at the centre, of course, Heath was a big influence on everyone. And then when I was in Singapore, my boss was a fellow, so I went from he to a fellow of the BHS. There was no more different sort of system, I don't think. And so that was quite a shock, went from, the Heath style to Anna style, but so I had to change completely the way I rode for her. And then, but that's okay, you can, and so I learned from her. And then I went to Gundawindi actually when I came home. And it was really interesting up there, like some very good horsemen, like I worked up there for Jim and Sue Gunn. And there were some, some guys, just some really good horsemen up there that I learned a lot about horses, and I think sometimes we don't see the best horsemanship in the performance horse industry. And so it was really good for me to do that. And then watching and I've never had sort of one major mentor, I guess. Like it's always been pick up things, but the horses have just been my thing. My show jumping was my weakness for many years, and Jamie Coleman did a lot with my show jumping, and then Andrew, when Jamie moved to Melbourne. And as far as moving up through the grades, eventing-wise, I used to train with Prue Barrett when, we're at Lochinvar, and so she sort of brought me through the grades. And, it was always, everyone just went to Lochinvar and trained. And so, I certainly credit her with my cross-country training. She sort of kept a fairly good rein on all of us back in those days, and she does now with her students still. So, yeah, she was very good for my cross-country training, I feel. So I do credit her with that. But, yeah, it is amazing. You don't pick up things until you're ready to pick them up. You can have someone say something to you 5 times and it won't go in, and then at just the right moment when you're ready to get it, that same set of words just resonates and you've got it. So it's all about timing. It's all about repetition. And, yeah, it just eventually goes in with me, I guess.
All right. Now, you've talked about horses and you've, learning a lot from horses. Who have been the main horses who've influenced you?
My best horse, Fuzzy Logic, Fred, who's still in the paddock at 27, he was my amazing horse. Like, everyone has that amazing horse, when you're eventing and you can do anything and you're invincible, and he was it. Like, he was just, you don't know what you have when you've got those horses. You just, you come through the grades on them and you make every mistake and they still keep on going. And he was just a treasure, which is why he was sort of shot until a couple of years ago still even, because he likes his front shoes and fully rugged, looks after you though, because he's amazing. And I think horses like that make 4-star feel quite easy, like you still don't know what all the fuss is about. You go through the levels and I don't know, tick, tick, tick. It just, and then you go through, you bring the next one through and you're like, oh, quite hard actually. And then with dressage, I was very fortunate to have a little horse called Argentile Lariat, and he was the first horse when you sat on, you went, because Fred Fuzzy Logic was not very easy to do dressage on, and then I got Lariat, and he was a bit of a rat bag on the ground and everything, but amazing to ride. And he went, this is what dressage is all about. And he went on to win the state championship, and I got a love of dressage from him. He gave you that taste of how fun dressage can be. And so, yeah, he very much inspired me down dressage lines.
So what's been your proudest moment? Was it dressage or eventing?
I think the first time I went 4-star on Fred, I think that was, well, not the first time I fell off.
Oh.
The first time, we went round Adelaide. That was pretty amazing. I really enjoyed that from the part of it, feeling part of a team with your horse. I felt very, very proud of him. And from a team point of view, we were members of the Trans-Tasman Challenge in New Zealand. I can't remember what year. Maybe it was 2003 or something. And we're on the team with Nikki Rose and Will Enzinger, Wendy Schaefer and Claudia Graham, and that was lots of fun, being a part of a team with those guys. Like they're all like a great bunch of people, and it was actually loads of fun being part of that team. And I was really proud, really proud to wear the green and gold. But, the first time you get the hat cover with Oz in gold letters on the side, like that was pretty amazing. That representing Australia, that was pretty exciting.
So you've had some great moments. What do you think your biggest challenge has been?
Biggest challenge, I think finances are always, I think, the biggest challenge with a horse rider. I've had to sell a lot of horses on the way that I would have loved to have kept. So that's all part and parcel. You want to do a business which is ridiculously expensive, then you've got to sell the horses along the way. So I think the selling of the horses that, I would have loved to have kept, that was always pretty tough. And probably now at this end of my career is actually keeping myself sound. You sort of, it's complain when the horses have gone unsound in the past, and now I'm working on myself, so I can't really complain about myself being unsound. So, but yeah, that's now.
Okay.
That's now probably my biggest challenge at this end of my career.
All right. Now, look, we normally ask people for a tip, just a common fault that a rider or a horse might have and how to fix it. But I want to be a bit greedy and do 3, because I want to talk about 3 different types of jumps. I want to talk about drop fences, water and ditches, and just tips that you'd give people to improve the riding over drop fences and ditches and water.
Drop fences, ditches and water. Well,
yeah.
you've pretty much a bit the same for all 3. So I think the biggest problem we get in eventing now that the horses are a bit more warm blood. Back in the day, they were thoroughbreds, and the thoroughbreds were in front of your leg. Like, that's how they went. You sort of got them off the track, because that was the majority of horses that we had, and they were just in front of the leg. Like, you were like so far in front of the leg, you're like, whoa, steady. But they were in front of the leg and they were up to the bridle, so they took you. And so that was actually 50% of the job done. Whereas now that we're getting a lot more warm bloods into the sport, the warm bloods are not naturally in front of the leg. They have to be, depends on how they're broken in and how they're ridden, but the majority of problems we see now is that the horses are behind the leg, and that you have to then get them truly in front of the leg. Because if you're coming up to a water jump, you've named the 3 spookiest fences really on the course.
That was
and
the idea.
Horse is behind the leg, it becomes an optional extra with it. Yeah. So it becomes an optional extra if they go in. If they're behind the leg and they do that horrible stally jump, you're just really hanging on. So that goes back to your basic, you put the leg on, the horse must go forward. They must actually connect up to the bridle. They can't be behind the leg and empty in the hand. If you're getting that feeling, or if you're coming in and you're kicking and nothing is happening, you have to go back to your work a little bit between your fences and go train them. Put the leg on, nothing happens, the spur comes on, nothing happens, the whip comes down, and you train them to be more off the leg. So you're not having to kick very hard on the way in. It has to be a little bit sharper off the aids. And I love the thoroughbreds for that reason. They're so off the aids, they tend to want to go. I like that feeling in a horse, but you can certainly train it. The horses that are a little bit duller, so you train them. And once they're in front of the leg, just your legs are there, your shoulders are back so that the horse can't get behind the leg, and then you're right. But you start leaning forward and your legs slip back, then, yeah, it's really, voluntary action really if the horse goes in. But all of those things as well, in saying that, it's training. It's going onto the courses and training and training and training. I don't think people understand the reservoir of training that you need. And I hear it all the time. People go, I just went to the competition, I didn't school him, but he went so well. And they don't realise that every time they do that, they chip away a little bit at the horse's confidence. You need to go to the course the week after. If you've had a bad run, don't then leave it for 3 weeks and then try and go training the week before the competition. Go training every week, just to a cross-country course, and just train it and get that reservoir of confidence under a horse, so that when something goes wrong, they go, I've done that. They've done it a million times, and they don't have to jump big. They just have to jump repetitively, because every time you come in, it's slightly different. And so the horse comes in, all the time, at Lochinvar. We just went there, and just train and train and train. It was a wonderful facility. We were very, very lucky. And that's why we built our own cross-country course at the back here, because it's just that ability to just constantly just go out the back once a week on the horses or whatever. They just get so confident. And that, for water, for ditch, for the drop fences, for your banks, do you think, the horse just can make a mistake, or you can make a mistake, more importantly, and they go, yes, no problem. They can just pick it off because they know they can. And I think that's just so important, and something that we probably don't do enough of these days.
I really liked the way that you explained, horse has got to be in front of the leg and up to the bridle, but then you said something about the horse being empty in the hand, and Everyone knows that dreaded feeling of coming into a fence that might be a bit tricky and the horse just drops and there's just nothing,
Yeah.
you know, and the horse really isn't
Yeah.
going forward into the hand. It is empty into the hand. Yeah. So I like the way you explain that. And I think the way you talked about it all, I think that was a really good lesson for our listeners that are looking at jumping and looking at coming into some tricky fences sometimes.
Wait, can you hear anything? No? That's because we're waiting for someone with a good quality horse product to be advertised here. If that's you, then contact us, horsechats@horsechats.com, and we'll send you the details. Thanks.
Okay, Tarsha, I know you don't read books and you've already said that you don't learn from books that well. Have you got one, though, that you would recommend, one that you've used in the past and maybe learnt something from?
Yeah, I'm terrible like that. And I know some of my students talk about the books that they read and, everyone learns so differently. And, I had one lady that she really needed to read it from a book. And I had a look at a few and because she was doing the medium sort of work. And I had a look at a cover she had and she had Kira Kirkland, a book, with all the movements and things.
Yes.
I thought the descriptions in that were really good for the lateral work and that sort of higher level work. I think I was really impressed with the way she laid it out. So from my limited experience, I did really like that one. If anyone's looking at the lateral and, sort of elementary to medium work and, looking for good descriptions, that was a really good one. And it helped a couple of my students actually. But yeah, I've never really read any of the others, which is terrible because I love reading. I actually love reading the novels and stuff. But I find I don't take that learning across so well from books that way. So, yeah, I'm much better watching someone train myself. But, yeah.
That's right. And as you say, everyone learns so differently. Some people are more practical. Some people do like the books and do like them just to complement. And, of course, there's, nothing at all like the practical, but some people can learn more just by watching videos, listening to books and things like that.
Yeah, for sure.
And remember, you can find all the books recommended by our guests at horsechats.com/books. You can have a look at the guest page for the individual book they recommended or just look at the recommended books by order of popularity at horsechats.com/books.
Now, Tarsha, what about your future? What are you looking forward to?
Well, I've got 2 kids now, and so they're very much my priority. Phoebe's 3 and Henry's 5, and so they're very much taking up, I think, 98.8% of my time. But I'm still teaching. I sort of do 2 to 3 solid days teaching a week. And I'm trying to maybe scale that back a little bit so I can get a bit more riding in. I don't like letting my students down, but I've been missing my riding. So next year I would like to maybe get a little bit more riding time under my belt. I've got a really nice eventer, a Bradgate horse that I really, really enjoy riding, and I've got a really cute little dressage horse, although a bit cheeky. She's lots of fun. So I would like to have a couple of eventers and a dressage horse and try and find the time. But, yeah, Henry's starting school next year, so I've got no idea how it's all going to work. But I don't know. Hopefully I'll get there and keep myself sound. I have to do a fair amount of work to keep myself sound in the saddle, so it all takes time. But, yeah.
Okay.
I just want to get back out there, Glenys.
I certainly understand how you mean. Now, Tarsha, can you sum up your philosophy into a lesson today for our listeners, please?
Oh, my philosophy. I don't know if I have a philosophy. I think the biggest thing when you're training horses or people is it's all about them. Like, I really think if you're training a horse, it's all about the horse. It's however that horse needs to be trained. And I think it's the same with a student. It's when you're coaching, it's not about you as a coach. It's all about the student. It's what they need. That can be sometimes really draining as a coach, but that's your job. Whether you're training a horse or a rider, it's put it in their court. It's all about them. And I think we've got to be really focused on that as riders and coaches.
Okay, that's good. And Tarsha, how can people contact you?
I'm probably the worst communicator in the world, as you guys found out. I'm genuinely terrible. But, yeah, if people email or text or call and then just repeatedly keep on chasing me, Because with the kids, I don't always have my phone around me all the time. So I always say harassment is the best policy.
Okay. All right. And those details for you will be on your page at Horse Chats, which will be horsechats.com/Tarsha Hammond. Tarsha, thanks very much for talking to us today. Thanks for your valuable information. I'm sure people will take it, go away and think about that, learn from it and improve their results with their horses, but also improve the connection and the relationship they have with their horses as well. Thanks very much for talking to us and hope to talk to you again sometime soon.
A pleasure. Thank you, Glenys.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Now, if you're still there, you probably know that I'm absolutely passionate about education within the horse industry. That's why I host this podcast. My other venture is Online Horse College. Have a look now at onlinehorsecollege.com and I'll see you over there.
Remember that our comments and instructions are general in nature and do not take into consideration your individual horses or your individual ability and circumstances. If you enjoyed this podcast, then please leave your comment below.